Frank Isola, the Nets studio host. Maybe he can help us here. He's also one of the contributors to Around the Horn. Pardon the interruption. What were you expecting last night, Frank?
Well, first of all, speaking of quarterbacks,
yes.
Last week you had Tom Brady on.
Yeah.
That's a great get. And now this week you have me. I mean, at this point, you could probably just walk away happy. Tom Brady and me in back-to-back weeks. Those are two great gets by you, Dan. Outstanding work. That was a good interview, by the way.
Brady's the warm-up act to you, is what you're saying, Frank.
You two dashing, good-looking guys. That was a good interview.
Thank you.
Who knows what's going to happen with Kyrie? There's always drama, right, Dan? You know, whether he's not playing, whether he is playing, there always seems to be drama surrounding Kyrie Irving. I think the Nets are kind of steadfast in this idea that they only want to give him a short-term contract. And how can you blame them? We know the numbers. He's played in 103 games in 3 years. He's missed 123. The guy just isn't available enough. So yes, we know all about the big shot that he hit with Cleveland against Golden State. We're now beyond 6 years of that happening. And what has he done since then? So, and he thinks himself as a top 75 player. That's all great. You just haven't played enough for the Brooklyn Nets.
All right. It felt like a leverage play when I first heard it. I still feel it's that way, but that hasn't stopped the media with running with the possibilities here. Now, Kyrie says, hey, if you're going to trade me, here's 6 teams here. Then there's the KD portion of this. Separate fact from fiction here.
Well, it's interesting. So, Kevin Durant, kind of following Draymond Green, considers himself new media, and he actually released a podcast just this morning where he kind of addressed the stuff. The problem is, whoever was doing the interview didn't ask him specifically, if Kyrie Irving were to leave, would you ask the Nets to be traded? So new media, old media like you and I would have asked that direct question. That would have been better off. But the way that he answered the questions and the way that he spoke about it leads me to believe that Kevin Durant wants Kyrie there, but don't necessarily attach my future to what he might do. So I think this is, come on, Joe Tsai, the owner, Sean Marks, the general manager, these discussions have to take place with Kevin Durant in mind. He's already committed. Here's the thing, Dan, he's already committed 4 years to this organization. So I said it before, one of the most underrated stories in the NBA last year was that Kevin Durant signed up for 4 more years. So if the Nets can do something, if Kyrie's back, I'm sure Kevin Durant's going to be happy with that. And I think if they can get something for Kyrie Irving, I think Kevin Durant's going to think, let's go, game on, let's play.
When it comes to Kyrie, I say never, because he's a wild card that I don't know if he just says, hey, you know what, I'm going to go play for the Lakers for $6 million.
I know. And the other variable there is, now he's using, I believe it's his former stepmom as his agent. I don't know what kind of experience she has, but a lot of times this is when you do need an experienced agent, whether, a man or a woman that has connections around the league where, if you make one play.
His agent is his former stepmom.
Yes, exactly. And you remember this, Dan, from years ago. Once you get family members involved, remember with Mark Messier's negotiations with the New York Rangers, he had his dad and his brother negotiating for him. And then all of a sudden, when the Rangers are saying certain things, he's getting up there in age, he looks a little slow, they take it personally. They don't take it as business. So you always have to factor that in as well. But I think you're absolutely right. If Kyrie would have turned down the $36 million and take $6 million, we would all say, you crazy for doing that. But guess what? He's so unpredictable that it wouldn't be the craziest thing if he did it.
But let's look at the teams that he put out there. Let's just be fair to what has been reported. The team that makes the most sense for Kyrie and makes the most sense for that team is which scenario?
Well, I would say probably the Lakers, just because you have Anthony Davis there and you do have LeBron and he's won with LeBron. He needs to go to a team where he's not going to be the best player. He was the best player for a while in Cleveland. They weren't any good. He was the best player before Jason Tatum emerged in Boston. And, they did better without Kyrie than they did with him. So I would say the Lakers. I still think the best situation for him is Brooklyn. Remember, Joe Harris is going to be coming back. That's a great shooter. Ben Simmons, I don't know what to expect out of him, but he is talented. Let's face it. He can defend. He could rebound. I still think that's the best place for him. One of the teams that you have to laugh, he throws the Philadelphia 76ers in there. We all know that he and James Harden had a big time falling out. It's almost Kyrie's way of trying to spin the story. No, see, I want to go to Philadelphia, but you guys are all saying that I didn't get along with James Harden. Come on now. We all know they didn't get along with James Harden, but it all makes sense. He spends a lot of time in LA. You got the 2 LA teams. Philly's close to West Orange, New Jersey, where he lives. Obviously, the Knicks are close. And then you have, Dallas with Mark Cuban with deep pockets. And then everybody wants to go to Miami. So all the teams make sense from that standpoint.
All right. Recap what the Knicks did.
Well, the Knicks did a lot of maneuvering, a lot of future picks. It's funny when Oklahoma City collects picks, everyone is saying, wow, look how smart they are. When the Knicks do it, I think because people are judging it on their past, thinking somehow they'll screw it up. To me, it's clear that they're trying to get money here to sign Jalen Brunson. And we all know the relationship. Leon Rose, the GM or the president of the Knicks, represented Jalen. Leon's son now represents him. Rick Brunson is Jalen's dad. The Knicks just hired Rick Brunson. Tom Thibodeau knows Jalen Brunson. So it's all somehow connected. And I don't know how Dallas is never going to be able to prove tampering because somehow they're all related to Jalen somehow. But I think they're doing this to clear cap space. The one thing is, if you could have drafted a player, a point guard, you're getting him on a rookie deal. Now you're going to be giving upwards of $20+ million to a player who I think is good. The kid wins. He's a leader. He's tough. He's strong. He's gotten better every year. I don't think it's the worst thing that the Knicks did.
You tweeted out this morning at 8:46, or was that last night? The Knicks aren't giving up on Purdue's Jaden Ivey.
Yeah.
Maybe difficult to pull off, but it ain't over yet. Yeah. Where do we stand this morning at 10:31 Eastern?
Well, it's over now, and that's what they were hoping to do, was where they were going to draft. They were going to try to move players around to try to get down to Jaden Ivey. And that's the thing. If they had drafted him, if they were able to move down and get him, then this whole thing about getting Jalen Brunson, it would still be in play, but not to the degree that it is now. Because when you don't draft anybody and you were a lottery team last year, you have to be making some big moves. But we know how it works, Dan. I mean, come on. They have to believe that they have a really strong chance of getting Jalen Brunson. Why else would they be doing all this?
You're right about, the Knicks are stockpiling draft picks, Oklahoma City. But I have more confidence in Oklahoma City because Sam Presti, there's a better history there.
That's right.
The Knicks might be doing it, but it's one thing to have draft picks. It's another thing, what do you do with the draft picks? Cleveland had draft picks for years, and they were horrible at drafting.
Yeah, and
or the Browns. The Browns.
Yeah. And Sam Presti's done a brilliant job. I mean, he drafted 3 MVPs. Kevin Durant, and I could have drafted him. I get that. But James Harden, Russell Westbrook, Serge Ibaka, the kid, Josh Giddey that they have now. But remember this, too. When you have all those draft picks, you can then attach draft picks with players. So, for example, let's say there was a team out there that might be willing to take Julius Randle and you add in a draft pick. Maybe you could take a good player back. When good players become available, a lot of times teams are saying, well, we're going to rebuild. What do you have? Well, now the Knicks have all these draft picks to offer. Again, I don't think it's the worst thing to have that many assets like they have right now.
Which team had the best night last night?
I think Oklahoma City definitely did. And I think Detroit, I give them a lot of credit. Troy Weaver, you could tell that they're building towards something. I think Cade Cunningham, who began the season kind of injured toward the end of the season, a lot of people thought he should be Rookie of the Year. I did because he didn't play enough games. But, they're adding Jaden Ivey. So I think Detroit looks like a team that's starting to come up a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. I love the Ivey pick. I've said it probably 5 times this morning, so I'm probably overrating him. But if you get DeAndre Ayton, maybe you got a young team there, and, it's tough sledding in the East, but I like what Detroit is at least trying to do.
Yeah.
It feels like they have a game plan.
I completely agree. When you're rebuilding, they're going about it the right way. Another team, Patrick Baldwin Jr. was a kid that was coming out of high school in the Chicago area. His dad at the time was assistant coach at Northwestern. He was one of the top recruits in the country. He was injured, did not play that well his first year at Milwaukee, playing for his father. And then he goes to Golden State. If you're a young player that that didn't have the greatest freshman year for whatever reason, and you end up in a situation like that, great environment, great culture, you get to play with Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green, you're going to learn how to be a pro right away. I actually think the Warriors, considering where they picked and the fact that they're the champions, I actually thought that was a pretty interesting pick by them.
The Warriors were such a great story this year, but then the way they acted after they won the championship, like this us against the world, and like they became dislikable.
Yeah. Well, Dan, come on. You've been doing this forever. Every time a team wins, it doesn't matter which team it is, you always get players in the locker room that say, only the guys in this locker room thought we can do that. Well, no, that's not really true. A lot of people thought that you guys could win. I was a little surprised. I think that's where we are today with social media and so many television shows and radio programs like yourself. I'm surprised at how much the players do pay attention to this stuff. Even a guy like Steph Curry. I was on the court after the game. His dad mentioned how the idea that he hadn't ever won a Finals MVP was wearing on him. Dan, when we were covering the Finals in the '90s, we never went into an NBA Finals thinking, I wonder who might win Finals MVP. Now it's something that we actually talk about before the Finals even began. Of course, in the '90s, we all knew that Michael Jordan was going to win it anyway. That's besides the point. But it's these things like, did Steph Curry need to win a Finals MVP to validate his career? I never thought that, but clearly he did. Because and then after the game, he brought up how people said that he was never going to win. I was kind of surprised that a team like that's accomplished so much, is so worried about what people in the media are saying. This is our job to talk about it.
Yeah, I wonder if the MVP in the finals is an overrated award from the standpoint of you can have 2 bad games or you might have 3 really good games. And, does KD win the finals MVP without having Steph Curry there? Yeah. Andre Iguodala won the MVP, guarding LeBron, and LeBron averaged almost a triple-double, which I still don't understand how Steph didn't win it that year. That's why it's kind of tricky. Cedric Maxwell won it for the Celtics, 1 year. You just have these outliers.
Yeah, and I think really what you're trying to say is it's a bunch of knuckleheads in the media voting for it. So it's 11 people. It's a subjective award, number one. And if you go back and look.
Wait, it's only 11 people?
Yeah, so this way it's an odd number. This way it can end up tied. Now, the most recent ones have been 11 people voting for it.
Do you vote?
I haven't had a finals vote in a long time. I think the last time I had a finals vote, I wrote the words Michael Jordan, which was kind of easy. But,
wait, you got stripped of the honor of voting for what happened? Wow.
Yeah, it's not fair. It's not fair.
Are you okay?
I don't know. I'm not one of the chosen. And I was at the game, too. Now, they would have had to look to find me because the seating in Boston, it's not like the old days, Dan. We were basically right on the court. We were all the way up in the rafters. Wasn't a bad seat, though. You could see a lot. One thing about Curry, go look up his games, the last 3 games of that series. Look at the numbers he put up. It's almost as if Iguodala had a huge last game, and it's almost like they're basing it on Game 6 as opposed to all the games leading up to that.
Maybe that's why you don't vote anymore, because you bring up interesting.
I put too much thought into it.
Yeah, you did. I remember when I voted for the MVP. I voted for all the awards, but I remember voting for Jordan the year Barkley won. I voted for Jordan when Karl Malone won.
Yeah.
And so you would hear from, like a columnist would say from the Deseret News, be like, we want to get your thoughts on why you didn't vote for Karl Malone. I go, well, the most valuable player in the NBA is Michael Jordan, exactly. No matter what. And he's going to win a championship. Well, you can't vote on what you think he's going to do. I go, well, I'm going to. Michael is the most valuable player, like LeBron has been the most valuable player to the league with everything that happens. And I said, I'm sorry, I'm voting for Michael Jordan.
It becomes voter fatigue, really, a little bit. And also, it became for Karl Malone a bit of a lifetime achievement award. What I love now, voting for the awards, and this year I voted for all of them, for Defensive Player of the Year, Bam Adebayo, comes from the culture in Miami. He said, I should have won the award. He played 56 games. We never used to even consider someone for an award unless they played minimum 65. He played 56 games and thought he should have been the Defensive Player of the Year. Draymond Green played in the 40s, and he thought he should have been first team all defense. It's bizarre how guys don't think you should have to participate. Like I said, the NBA should be the one sport that gives out participation trophies because not enough guys participate.
Well, I said to the commissioner a couple of weeks ago, you got to have a number here. You got to have minutes played or games played
100%
to get to qualify for these awards.
I'll give you, you'll love this stat. So Mikal Bridges led the NBA in total minutes played. All right. If this were 19 years ago, he would have finished 37th in minutes played. 39-year-old Michael Jordan, or as many 39-year-old Karl Malone, 40-year-old Michael Jordan played more minutes that year in 2002, I guess that is, or 2001, than Mikal Bridges, the leader in minutes played this year in the NBA. Think about that.
We should do a podcast, Get Off My Lawn. Just you and me.
I'm up for it. Will Tom Brady join us once in a while? He'll probably turn it down when he hears that I'm going to be on.
That's true.
I'm a big Brady guy.
Frank, thanks for joining us this all.
All right, Dan. Thanks a lot.
Yeah,
looking great.
Frank Isola. Frank lost his vote. Like, I lost my vote when I left the mothership. I don't get to vote on the NBA awards. Frank covers the NBA, and he lost his vote for the finals MVP. That one's got to hurt. One of 11 people